Hi, this is Gary Whitlock with Austin Roofing Contractors. We're here in the middle of Austin on a project for the watermarking company, a remodeling company here in Central Texas and Austin, Texas. But what we're really focusing on today is the chimney. You can see the masonry is actually still wet here. Now, what we're going to be doing is putting a chimney cap on. It's going to be a masonry, concrete, and masonry cement mix. It's a very strong mix compared to what goes on originally, because usually you just use masonry cement. But this is actually going to be a concrete mix in with that. Now, what's on the inside here is there's going to be a mesh, and you can see that Luis is actually cutting some of the mesh right now, and that mesh is going to be what holds the concrete in place. And so he's trying to get it positioned where he can get that where to hold all the concrete in place. And then that mesh lays on top of rebars. And so they actually have steel rebars that's going to hold that up in place, that spans across this. Now on top of that, on top of the mesh, goes these reinforcement wires. This is actually a 6-inch by 6-inch reinforcement wire that goes up into the cement. So it actually, if you were to get a crack, which this concrete usually doesn't crack, the way we're putting it here, a full 2 inches on the outside, and it actually will be 4 inches plus on the inside, so it has an arch to it. Makes it very, very strong. And then this reinforcement wire goes in there in case 20, 30, 40 years from now it does break. It's not going to separate hardly at all. Now you also notice around the flue liner here, this is something that we do that you rarely see out there, but what we have found is that when the flue liner is in the center and it's such a large piece, a lot of times what happens is this gets hot one time, expands a little bit, cracks the concrete, and goes in all directions with the cracks. What this foam does, and this is just temporarily in here, is it gives us a space between the flue and the concrete, so we can fill with a flexible filler that's made for heat resistant and made to put adjacent to concrete products like that. That gives it an expansion joint. And this filler just comes out after the concrete is poured. Now in this particular situation, we're actually pouring the cap 3/4 of an inch thicker than we are the actual brick. In other words, we're making the cap larger, so that'll create a water drip line that is 3/4 of an inch away from the brick, so it'll help the brick last longer too. One of the issues that you have is the mortar washing out of the brick, and we've actually re-tuck pointed to take care of that at this point, but to avoid it in the future, that's what we've done. So Luis, we're going to let you get back to work here. A lot of times people do re-roofs, but they forget about the chimney. The chimney, if the chimney leaks and gets in behind the flashing, you still have a leak on your roof. So you never want to forget about the walls and the chimneys and the critical things that's going to be on top of your chimney. This particular chimney had brick that was all broken off, 3 or 4 or 5 layers deep here. So the guys actually had to reset the masonry, had to relay the brick to get it back up to this point. We actually mortared this in. This is actually a masonry cement, just like it is in the joints of the brick. Now the important part of that is if you put caulking along here, which we see on hundreds of them, we get a lot of calls from leaky chimneys, and almost inevitably they put caulking in here. Now brick will eventually soak in a little bit of moisture. These bricks have just been sealed with siloxane, and it's a great product for that. In fact, I've got the can here that we just emptied this out, but it's siloxane, and it actually is made so the product can breathe into the brick. So you're not just sealing it off like you would with paint. It actually keeps the integrity of the brick, but it keeps the moisture from soaking in. Now that'll last 10, 12 years before it really needs to be redone again. But the key thing is you don't want to trap water in at this point. If you do, what happens is you're going to rust out the flashing. You're going to cause water to back up and go into the inside of the flashing. There's a little kick back there, and you don't want to trap that water there. So you'll notice that all the way around this, we've actually put that masonry caulk in, and that's how we're able to make sure that that doesn't rust out too soon or doesn't have a leak because it's backing up. Now let's take a quick look at the top here. You see what we've actually done. This is pretty unique in the industry. we pour a concrete top. It's actually made out of cement, not just masonry cement. In other words, concrete, 7,500 pound test. And what that means, it's going to be strong. There's rebars underneath it. There's 6x6 mesh wire in the concrete itself. And then we put an expansion joint. Don't pour it up tight around the flue, because if that flue gets hot and expands the least little bit with concrete tight around it, you know what happens. This is what happens to most chimneys. The caps are broke here and here, at each one of these corners. That creates the deterioration in the chimney. Our idea of getting a good chimney top is putting it on there. Be the last one you have to deal with for 50 years. Don't know if it goes much longer than that. That's about my age. This is Gary with Austin Roofing Contractors. Thank you for watching our video.